friendly teacher, and I am here today to talk with you all about back to school season. Back to school season is my favorite, right? Teachers have so much energy, students have so much energy, the classroom is so vibrant and fun, right? So today I'm just going to talk to you with some quick tips on the back to school season, some resources that you can use, and some things to get you started, whether you're a new teacher or you've been teaching for years and just want some new ideas. First things first, whenever I talk about back to school or with new teachers, the first thing I always want to say is Pinterest perfect is not a thing, right? You do not need some beautiful magazine spread-worthy classroom to be an effective teacher. Actually, your students probably need the opposite, okay? So don't worry. So before you start decorating or start planning for your first weeks of school, come up with your own ideas before you hit up Pinterest and Instagram and all of that. Because a lot of times you can feel down about, the resources that you have, maybe the school building that you have, or the amount of money you have to spend on decorations, when that is not always needed. What is needed is that students have a comfortable place to go where they feel safe, invited, and welcome. That's what's important, not what is on your walls or what is in your lesson planning bag, okay? So just remember that. Now, for the first 2 days of school, my mantra in the first 2 days of school is relationships over results, okay? You want your students to know, that there are certain expectations in your classroom right off the bat, but we do not need to be shoving down routines and things for our students on day one. Day one and day two, you really should just be focusing on, creating relationships with your students and allowing your students to create relationships with each other and feeling safe in the classroom. Now, if a student starts acting crazy and acting out, you should pull them aside and have a conversation with them or, praise positive behavior activities, but you don't need to teach every single routine and expectation in those first 2 days. So my first 2 days, I always say to myself, relationships over results. Relationships over results. You can even make a little song for yourself, right? And then day 3 is when you can start kind of focusing on making sure that, all the classroom expectations, the tornado drill, the fire drill, all those things that you do need to teach your students, how to walk in the hallway, how to turn in their work, how to, those things that can start happening on day 3 once you formed that safety and that connection with your students. And then I'm going to even go a little farther to say teaching new content, actually teaching standards, shouldn't be happening till week 3, maybe even the end of week 2, because first few days, you're focused on those relationships. Then the next few days, you're teaching your students how to be a student in your classroom, right? Every classroom is different, so you need to teach them how. Then you can actually teach content. Before those 2 things are covered, A, I have a relationship with my teacher. B, I understand how to be a student in this classroom. Before that, those 2 things, those 2 needs are covered, the content doesn't really stick with your students. If you don't cover those 2 things so explicitly for a few days, you will regret that down the line in school. Okay, I promise you. So now we got to, what are we actually going to do? So that's kind of the overarching principle. Relationships over results, then expectations of how to be a student in your classroom, then you get to content, right? So how can we do all of those things? Because we still need to do some schoolwork, right? So my favorite thing is read alouds, right? There are so many good back to school books, whether those are novels or picture books that can cover the relationships and a lot of times the expectations. So I do several read alouds in the first week of school. I have some read aloud book companions is what they're called, and there's some with writing. So I will read a story, and then we're gonna do a whole group activity and a writing with that. And for an example, I want my kids to know that reading is a really essential thing in my classroom. So one of the read alouds in the first 2 weeks of school is Miss Malarkey Leaves No Reader Behind. Then we do a little activity where I introduce them to my reading center after I read that, and then they write what their feelings about reading are right now. Do they like it? What are their favorite novels? Things like that. I save those writings and I give them back to them at the last day of school. 1, they're always amazed at how much better their writing got. 2, their feelings usually change, and it's a great discussion about how they grew throughout the school. So that's an example of how I'm not really teaching new content, but in a way, I'm using read alouds to kind of get some reading comprehension and discussion in our expectations in the classroom. Okay, so I will link below, but I have read aloud book companions for both writing and just classroom community focused. Now, what else do I need to focus on? I need to make sure that my students are feeling comfortable in my classroom. So what are some easy ways that you can do that? One thing is if you know the friendly teacher at all, I talk about this every year at the first day of school, but when the students walk in, the only thing on their desks is Play-Doh. I tell them to leave their supplies out in the hallway, and they can just play with their Play-Doh and talk with their friends until I start the lesson. Now, why do I do that? Because it instantly gives students like a comfort. It gives them a way to kind of talk to friends or just be quiet if that's what they need. It lets them know that, hey, this classroom is going to be kind of fun. We're going to have, we're going to enjoy each other, but I'm also going to make sure that you feel comfortable. And just having something to tactily play with in their hands when they first walk into that classroom, it really does shift them into a comfortable state. It can calm down nerves, and it can get kids talking, which is really important. Other things, you can be playing games. One of my favorite games to play is like Switch Sides If. It's a way to get kids moving, but also to get to know them, right? Switch sides if you watched a movie this year. Switch sides if you like hot dogs. I don't like hot dogs. I don't know why that one came to my mind. But it's a way for them to kind of get moving and get to know each other. One also thing that you really need to make sure in the first day especially, but really every day for the first few weeks, is to plan some type of like quiet activity throughout the day. You're going to have some students in your classroom, the introverted students, that they need some like quiet to kind of like bring themselves back, right? Because usually in the first weeks of school, we're reading books, we're playing games, we're kind of getting to know each other, and there's a lot of interaction happening, a lot of noise happening, and you need to make sure that you're planning in quiet time sometime throughout every single day for those specific introverted students that need that. What other things? So you need to pre-assess your students, but I like to pre-assess them in like a fun way because it's the first few weeks of school. So I do challenges, right? So I'm going to do a reading challenge, and my kids are going to read passages and answer questions so I can kind of see where they're at, where their reading abilities are at, where their reading skill knowledge is at, but they're doing it in a challenge. So I call it like, my specific challenge is like Stuff the Bus. And so every time they earn a school supply, and at the end we have a popsicle party. And so that is a one way in which you can kind of get to know your students, but you do it in a challenge base. So like every passage that they read with questions that they answer, they earn one little sticker, and once they get to all stickers, they get a popsicle, right? Same thing for math. Every day we're doing like a time challenge. So you're going to do the challenge, and then when you get to the end, you get to do like a fun activity, right? So this is a way, you need to pre-assess your students, but make it fun and engaging so you can really understand what they learned because they're so engaged in your topic. Then review, Okay, I'm not going to cut that out. I can cut it. Okay. So then I'm going to just be I have free first week lesson plans for you. So instead of going down everything that you should do the first week of school, I have it all written out for you, from the procedures that you should teach to the read alouds that you should read aloud. And you can pick and choose what you like from those lesson plans and use it or don't use it. And they're completely free for you. So if you go to thefriendlyteacher.com/first week plans, you can grab that for free, and I will also link that below. Another huge freebie that I have for you is pacing guides for the entire year, especially if you're a third grade teacher, but it runs through the order in which you should teach your reading standards, grammar standards, writing standards, math standards, social studies standards throughout the entire year. So you can kind of see that all played out. And that is the friendly teacher /pacing guides. But I will make sure to link both of those up. So I know this was like a quick throw it at you, some back to school ideas. I hope you picked up one or two things that you can use this year. If you have any questions, please comment below or email me at thefriendlyteacher@gmail.com. Thanks, guys.